a big welcome again. For those of you that weren't here at the start, I'm Chris Robb. I'm the CEO and founder of Mass Participation World. Absolutely delighted to be hosting you tonight on the November version of World Athletics webinars, Run Wild, Mountain and Trail Running, Capturing New Frontiers. We've got a massive program tonight. We're going to go close to 3 hours. We've got people literally from Colorado and Patagonia in the west, all the way through to Hong Kong in the east, and pretty much everywhere in between. Really excited to have an amazing session. I'm certain that I'm going to learn so much tonight as well. Just some quick housekeeping, please. Stay mute, as is always the case on Zoom webinars. If you'd like to communicate, please, in the chat or in the Q&A. We've got a team of 3 here in the studio that are following the chat. Whenever I get a chance in between the presentations, I'll try and feed the questions and so on in. We are live on Facebook. We are recording and we'll be posting on the Mass Participation World YouTube channel by next week. So live on Facebook on Mass Participation World. And a very big thank you to Julia Chui and the CGX Consulting team. We are live streaming into China tonight as well, which is wonderful. As I said, we've got a massive program. It's a long one, but I'd love you to stay until the end because we've got something very special to end on tonight. And that's a video from COP26 where Sebastian Coe and a number of global athletes will be talking about the impact of climate change on our industry. So see if you can hang out till the end. It's going to be a wonderful finale. Couple of quick announcements from an MPW perspective. Our 6th edition of our annual conference will be taking place from the 6th to the 10th of December. Making mass participation matter, conversations to help build your community, partnerships and future. We've got some amazing speakers and we'll be launching that tomorrow. Next MPW web series on November the 18th, Less is More, an elite coaching perspective to post-COVID world. And those of you that may not be aware of our COVID study that we've been conducting, we put out the numbers every week. This week, nearly 5 million participants from events in 35 countries and only 5 COVID cases. We're told repeatedly, and I'm getting amazing emails saying this is helping people with their permit applications. So if you've conducted an event recently, please make sure you fill in the form and share those details. Moving on to the packed program that we have for this evening, and it really is an amazing one. We kick off as soon as I've finished with Catherine Paletti, the co-founder and chairwoman of UTMB Group, which she co-founded with her husband Michel, and she's joining us from Chamonix in France. You want to say a quick hello there, Catherine? Give us a wave, please. Hi, Catherine. Big welcome to you, and we'll see you in a few minutes. We then move on to a panel, Charting Off-Road Running's Global Growth Trajectories. We have Diego Sorba, Managing Partner of Patagonia Ventos, joining us from Patagonia, and he's going to be joined by Alex, who's translating. Hello, Diego. Richard Bolt, Mountain and Trail Running Team Leader, USA Track and Field and Marketing for the American Trail Running Association, joining us from Dublin in Ireland. Hello there, Richard. Clark Hello. Gardner, the President of Otter African Trail Run, joining us from Cape Town. Hello, Clark.
Hi, everyone.
Big welcome there. Janet Ng, President, International Trail Running Association and the President of the Trail Runners Association Hong Kong, joining us from Hong Kong. Hi there, Janet. And then we follow on to updates on the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai, and we'll be joined by a Thai contingent, Kun Tapani Kiat Paiboon, Deputy Governor of Tourism Authority of Thailand, Kun Kop Kiat Sang Wyatt, the Secretary of the Local Organizing Committee for the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships, and also joining us, but as a delegate, Kun Sarapong Arya Mongkol, who's the Vice President and General Secretary of the Athletics Association of Thailand. And after their presentation, we'll be joined by Hilary Walker, who's the Secretary General of the International Association of Ultra Runners. Hello there, Hilary. And Alessio Punzi, the Road Running Manager for World Athletics. Alessio from Monaco and Hilary from London. We then go into a conversation, the World Championships of the Future, hosting opportunities, and that will be a conversation between Mark Hurst, the bidding manager of World Athletics, between him and Alessio Punzi, again, road running manager of World Athletics, both joining us from Monaco. Hello there, Mark. Great to see you. Alessio, you want to say a quick hello?
It's good to see you, Chris, and looking forward to the session.
Great to see you, Alessio. Thanks for joining us and all your support on this. A man who's on a plane at the moment and hopefully is going to land on time in Munich. He's usually based between Budapest and Lausanne. He's Ed Rudkowski. He's the competition and anti-doping coordinator for European Athletics, and he's going to be in Munich for preparation for next summer's European Athletics Championships. And his presentation, Continental Events, the new European Off-Road Championships. We'll look forward to welcoming Ede. In between all of this, we're going to be putting various polls into the chat, and we'd love you to respond to those. It helps us inform the conversation. We'll be sharing the results as we go along, and great to hear what the audience is thinking. And Oliver, my production director, will be putting those in on an ongoing basis. Following that session, we will have mountain running, the WMRA World Cup, and that will be presented by Jonathan Wyatt, the president of the World Mountain Running Association. And you sound like you're joining us from an incredible place, Val di Fiemme in the Dolomites in Italy. Welcome, Jonathan.
Welcome, everybody. A pleasure to be here. It's very wet and cold today.
Good to be indoors on a day like today, I guess. Thank you, Jonathan. And then we move on to the next session, which will be ITRA and its services for National Athletics Federations. We'll be jumping across to Hong Kong, where we'll be joined by Janet Ng, President, International Trail Running Association and the Trail Runners Association of Hong Kong. And co-presenting with her from Lisbon in Portugal will be Jose Santos, Vice President and Managing Director of ITRA. Hello, Janet and Jose.
Hi, everyone. Great to be here.
Great to see you. Thanks for joining. And then our final presentation, David Callahan, partner of Ultra Sign Up, joining us from Nashville, Tennessee. Hello there, David.
Good morning.
And Terry Chiplin, the event director of the recently completed, literally last weekend, US Trail Running Conference. Hello there, Terry, joining us from the lands belonging to the Arapahoe and Ute people in what is now known as Estes Park in Colorado. So the extremities from a Western perspective, and we go all the way across to Hong Kong with Janet. Nice to see you, Terry. Thanks for joining us.
Welcome, everyone.
And a wonderful and very, very appropriate in this week of COP26, Sustainability Matters, the Trail Net to Zero project. And then we come back. If you're still with us and you've managed to run that marathon, we do a wrap up with Alessio and we show that wonderful COP26 video that I was alluding to. So let's now get underway, if we can, with our first session, and welcome back from the team there, Catherine, to come and do her presentation for us, please, Catherine. While I just get my correct page of my notes here, just bear with me one moment so I can get your title correct and your presentation title. Thank you, Oliver. Please welcome back Catherine Paletti, co-founder and chairwoman, UTMB Group, which she co-founded with her husband, Michelle, to share the economic and social impact of a major trail running event. Catherine, over to you, please, to share your presentation.
So the topic is to speak about the economic and social impact of a major trail running event, and it's a very broad topic. And so I will try to explain our approach as fast as possible because it is a long story. As you can see, in 2003, we seized an opportunity by starting again an history interrupted by a serious fire in the tunnel, which caused the stop of races around the Mont Blanc on different formats, in different kind of relay, in team, and etc. And trail running, and in particular ultra endurance, started in the early 2000s, and this gave us the idea to organize a new event format, an individual trip on the trails as soon as it is possible, with the time starting at the departure in Chamonix and stopping the arrival in Chamonix. The idea of business was not the objective at the base, but quickly we realized that it was necessary to treat this organization professionally, about safety, organization of rescues, cooperation with 18 communes, through 3 countries, management of thousands of volunteers, service providers, local inhabitants, several types of profession, medical, rescue, weather, capacity of analysis and anticipation, logistics, partnerships, communication, everything like that. So it was the beginning of the story. And we arrived with an idea to take care of all the runners, of course, but also to have an event which is inclusive and based on the core values, that like respect for diversity, the environment, respect for the health, respect for all the others, and sharing and discovering with the others everything, the self-knowledge and the possibility of transcending oneself. Whoever you are, you can discover yourself as extraordinary. The willingness was to address everyone. Of course, the athletes, elites and amateur runners, all nationalities, women and men, of course, families and friends of runners, but also volunteers, organization and its network of suppliers, elected officials, and socio-pro of the territory, local inhabitants. That's it's very important because it's the way to have a good welcome of all the athletes, and of course environmental actors and charities and partners and media. Of course, there is a lot of things to do about the figures if we speak of this kind of topic. And with the idea to offer a trip to everyone and the possibility to discover extraordinary areas, to discover the world and the cultures, to allow each person to realize his or a full potential, whatever the aspect of the event, UTMB becomes almost a lifestyle and make the link between a lot of persons through all these key figures of media. It is 700 hours of TV broadcast all around the world in 136 countries, 3K of fans on the social networks, and a lot of accredited journalists, a lot of views, 15 million of views through the OTT platform and official live broadcast and everything. And on the salon, and there is 146 exhibitors. That means a lot of nationalities, all linked around the world. I think you through the video, the first one. I prepare for you just a video, a very little short video of So I think that I have not enough word to explain what is exactly the UTMB Mont Blanc event, and this short video explain it better than me. Often images are a good thing to do that. So next, as you can see, the Chamonix Valley, as well as all the valleys of the Mont Blanc Tour, cannot welcome more than 10,000 runners, plus their friends, plus the public. And we had a very, very fast growth. In 2017, we had 18,000 demands for registration, but we have only 10,000 places through the 7 races. In 2018, it was 24,000 demands, and then in 2019, 32,000 demands, and more, and like that we arrived with a lot more frustrated runners than winning runners in the lottery. So we, since 2012, at the request of some organizer, Japan in first, who wanted a link with us, we had been interested in events outside of France and everywhere. And in 2014, we co-created the Ultra Trail World Tour with independent events. It was difficult to find an harmonious development that was understandable for athletes. Too many disparities in the sporting rules, like penalties, compulsory equipment, number of people on the podium, how are organized the penalties and everything like that. Only the communication was the link. In 2016, we created UTMB International, a bit complicated because we could not develop more than 2 or 3 new franchises per year, too long to obtain enough and enough event for a coherent system. And at the moment, we had been contacted by several international groups of outdoor event organizers for several years. Ironman is one of them. The Ironman groups bring us the international power to organize and the presence of several offices around the world, and UTMB brings the knowledge of the sport, trail running, and its code. It was a win-win association, and it's because of that that we continue. The alliance with Ironman Group allows us to directly reach a significant number of events to satisfy the runners. And now I have just another video. there is too many runners who want to come in France and on the Mont Blanc, and it's not the moment that we have to propose a lot of travel just across the planet for just a distance. It was one of the reasons why we decided to organize something more pyramidal organization. It became necessary, and like that, the sport system became unstable and adapted to all runners, whether they are elite or amateurs. We organized it like that to have a system, and in the base, you have thousands of qualifier races. They are already qualifier and then continue to be qualifier. And we simplify the system, and then after we organize the series with 30 event series for 2022 and maybe a little bit more in the next years until maybe 650. And this system, it is possible to have the running stone on these World Series events. And they are the only to give the running stone who allows the runners to take part in the lottery. For the elite, it is a system with a result on the podium they make on these races, World Series events and majors. And for all the amateurs, it is the possibility to have running stones, and these running stones works like tickets in a lottery, and they play in the lottery to take part in UTMB, which is the 100 miles final, and or CCC, which is the 100K final, and or OCC, which is the 50K final on UTMB Mont Blanc. And we organize the system all around the world to propose this event everywhere to all the organizers who want to take part with us with an integrated circuit and system. That means some place we choose them geographically all around the world, but also we choose them with a distribution of the events who take care of the density of trail running communities. The idea is to travel better by traveling less, because when you go to this kind of event, you choose to go with your family. Today we have quite 2 persons, a little bit more, but 2 persons who go with one runner. That means a lot of accompagnants. And this person, they want to take the opportunity to visit the country, to discover the new cultures, and to do all of that, and to take the time to visit and to discover the country. And for the other one who cannot come in Chamonix, they are able to find an event not on the other side of the planet, but near where they are, and with the same standards of quality to take part in it. So we go to the runners, and like that, we are able to regulate the number of runners who want to go in Chamonix and around the Mont Blanc. And then we organize a partnership. It is not a new partnership with this kind of partners. We began in 2003 with the North Face, And then after 12 years, we had a partner who was Colombia. And because Colombia had not the idea to follow us on the complete World Series, UTMB World Series, we opened to a new partner, and Oka was the one who was designated, and we choose to explain that we had also the same kind of origin, because we were born in the Alps, in the Mont Blanc, in the mountain, and it's quite the same for Oka, who was just in the mountain, and with the idea of a fly, you can see that all the runners make like if they fly on their river line. So we have a lot of similar ideas and spirit, and we will work with Oka about on all the UTMB World Series. About the economic impact and the promoting host, on UTMB Mont Blanc, I can propose to you some figures, and it's represent a lot of benefit for host countries. Concerning UTMB Mont Blanc case, it's quite 28 million direct impact on local economy. I speak in euros, sorry. It's not dollars, it's not francs, it's euros. And about the tourism, it's a lot of tourism, because you have quite 72,500 bed nights. And it's a lot of person who come, not only during the week of UTMB, but all during the year, because they discover a touristic destination. Concerning the environment, we need to take care, because it's our place. And about the social, it's represent a lot of volunteers, but also staff and suppliers and socio-professional. To immediately and directly, that means 2,800 person who work with us during the event. But in the same time, for all the person who work for 1 month during the season, that means 1 week more for them. And for all of the socio-professional and the stores and the economic, that means a lot of business all during the year. We had a survey where we showed that 80% of the runners are able to come back around the Mont Blanc out of the week of a UTMB. And on this 80% of person, that means 30% to make ski during the winter. So it is very important for the region. And to show you, last year we had the Val d'Aran by UTMB for the first edition, and we had the result of some figures about the economic impact on Val d'Aran. That means for the first edition, 4 races, the target of participation is about 1,030. It was completely sold out on the 100 miles, and it was sold out on the 100K and sold out on the 50K. And that means quite 4,000 of participants immediately in the first year. And and 78 nationalities were already represented. And I can show you that all the rooms were sold, and that means that each runner were accompanied by 2.4 persons. The total number of visitors were 2,500 people. So, and the person stay for more than 4 nights. But it's one of the big problem of all the destination, touristic destination, is to have a person who stay more than 1 night and more than 1 day. So it is the interest of this kind of operation. And it's because of that that we were very proud to be organizing the UTMB World Series, and like that to meet for each person, even if they are runners, but also volunteers, but also they follow the race from over the planet through the virtual platform and everything like that. Each are able to meet his own extraordinary. So I hope that my English was enough, and now I will come back to you because I finish my Can you keep me back?
Okay. Thank you so much, Catherine. So many incredible images there and great statistics. Would you mind? Yeah, you've stopped your share. No issue. I'm absolutely certain you don't need to be apologizing about your English. As I said to you in the green room, I'm very glad I'm not presenting in French tonight. So congratulations, wonderful. So many inspiring images and great statistics around the impact. You can now, nice to be, I guess, first cab off the rank, to be able to relax now and enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you to you to welcome us. It was a pleasure to present that to everybody. So I say hello to everybody who is here, and I see that there is a lot of participants. So hello to everybody.
Wonderful. Thank you, Catherine. A big thank you, Catherine Paletti, co-founder and chairwoman, UTMB Group, with some wonderful insights there. Next, we move on to what's going to be, I think, another fascinating and exciting session. I have absolutely no doubt, I don't think, as we welcome our first panel, and it's going to be discussing charting off-road running's global growth trajectories. Please join me in welcoming from Patagonia, Diego Sorba, Managing Partner, Patagonia Eventos, and he's joined by Alex, who's going to translate for him. Big welcome back, Diego.
Hello, everybody. Nice meeting. It's my honor to participate with you all this fantastic session, and I hope that we will be able to transmit all our event and all our activities.
Looking forward to your great insights, and we got plenty of those in the practice session yesterday, so thank you for that. A big welcome to Richard Bolt, Mountain and Trail Running Team Leader, USA Track and Field, Marketing for the American Trail Running Association, actually joining us from Dublin in Ireland. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you, Chris. I was glad to be here.
Great to see you. Thank you. And then heading all the way south to Cape Town in South Africa, Clark Gardner, President Otter African Trail Run, and also involved in the Cape Town Marathon. Hi there, Clark.
Hello, everyone. Thank you. Nice to be here.
I grew up in Zimbabwe and went to university in South Africa, so I can give you a traditional welcome. Hoe gaan dit?
Alles is reg. Baie dankie.
Baie dankie. And then we head across to Hong Kong and we welcome Janet Ng, President, International Trail Running Association and Trail Runners Association of Hong Kong, obviously joining from Hong Kong.
Hello, everyone. Very excited to be here.
Hello there, Janet. Wonderful to see you. Thanks for joining us. We've got about half an hour for this discussion, and I'm sure we could have an hour, so let's jump straight into it. And we've seen those amazing images which Catherine shared of this enormous event, significantly commercialized. But I think it'd be great to maybe set the scene. Can we maybe go back and start with you and come to you each in turn, but start with you, Clark. Love to just get a sense of the kind of history of trail running, where it all started in your particular countries, and a little bit of a sense of the trajectory.
Well, thanks, Chris. You know, we started off in 2008 with the Otter African Trail Run, and just the love of mountains. Hikers started to go a bit faster, eventually started running. The Otter was a very famous hiking trail in South Africa through the Tsitsikamma forest, and there were a few great hiking trails in the Drakensberg as well, and on Table Mountain. And in turn, those matured into trail running destinations, and trail runners enjoying and loving nature and decided to run in the mountains as opposed to on the road. So in 2008 was our official event that started. We also had, I would say, our forefather in trail running, being Ryan Sands, putting trail running on the map in South Africa by participating overseas and showing what could be done in deserts and on mountains. And then we've also seen now a new trajectory where trail running is starting to leverage off the same infrastructure as, for instance, road running marathons. So borrowing that infrastructure and launching an event the day before the marathon, and as long as there is the natural beauty that's close by and that you can get and jump onto those natural resources, that's what trail runners want, then that's been a new trajectory and a good growth area for trail running.
Wonderful, and I must admit I'm surprised to hear that it's relatively new. I would have thought that it would be older than that. So amazing to see that trajectory that's being created. Is there a crossover? Are you starting to see traditional, for want of a better word, road runners now saying, hey, it's nicer to get out in nature, it's better to get off the roads, and many other reasons? Is that starting to happen in significant numbers?
So on our side, Chris, it's very slow. We just saw a comrades winner, a female, join our Cape Town Trail Marathon. Only one that actually crossed over from the road to there. On the male side, we had a few road runners that struggled on the mountains. I think it's a different muscle group. It's a different strength. The power to go up and downhill is different to that of our road runners who like a bit of rhythm and enjoy that high intensity pace. So we're not seeing such a big crossover. I think maybe with the youth, they're starting earlier in the mountains as opposed to wanting to run marathons and our comrades marathon and ultras. So I think it's starting, but not in great numbers at all from our side.
Okay, interesting insights. Janet, let's come across to you. Obviously, a flourishing industry in Hong Kong. Love to hear the background and history to it there, please.
Yeah, so for us, it was back in the late 1970s. There was a huge increase in population here, and the government realizes that people needed to escape from the urban areas to regain equilibrium. And so then the government set up 21 country parks, and which actually takes up 40% of the landmass here. In fact, like our countryside is actually takes up 3/4 of the land in Hong Kong. So it started from there, and in the 80s and 90s, there were the mountain marathons, adventure races, and shorter distance trail races then already. Perhaps a very notable one was something which is called a trail walker, which was started 35 years ago. And it started off as an endurance training event for the Gurkha soldiers stationed in Hong Kong. And it was a team event of 100 kilometers, teams of 4. And that was the big one then. But there was, in the last 10 years, there was a big increase in popularity. I organized a 100-kilometer race in Hong Kong called the Hong Kong 100, and it started in 2011. It was the first solo foot race of 100 kilometers here, and in the first year we had 175 people. I still remember we had to go out and hand pamphlets to people to ask them to join in other events, in other races, and then by the 5th year our event was filled in 4 hours, and then we started balloting. And before the pandemic, in 2020, we had our 2020 edition, and then we had 6,000 people looking for 1,500 places. So the trajectory in the last 10 years in particular has just gone like whoomp, like it just went up incredibly.
Wow, and I know a few people in the industry there. Dan Parr, who I think's on here tonight, who was one of the stars of the industry in Hong Kong before he moved back, well, a star racer before he moved back, and obviously across Asia back to the UK. But I heard stories that it had become so popular that it was challenging from a government perspective to get access to trails. They were concerned about some of the impact that was being made. What's the kind of government support in that space? The government gets behind it. It was interesting. You said it kind of started with the government saying we want people to get out, we build these parks, and then if my facts are correct, people saying it was getting difficult to get permits and you were having to limit numbers. Where obviously COVID's put a bit of a kind of a pause in that, but where does it sit at the moment from that perspective, pre-COVID and as you're coming out of COVID, in terms of the government saying we want people to get back on the trails?
Yeah, so well, I mean, happy to hear that Dan is here as well. Hello, Dan. Yes, so the what we call the country park department, which is like the forest services. They in 2015, because of the amazing growth of trail running, decided that they have to limit each event's quota, because like we are seeing like 2 to 3 events happening in Hong Kong like every weekend, and our running season is really in the autumn and winter, because in the summer it's really hot. So then in 2015, the government started putting down quotas and also limit where races can take place in the country parks. They have to balance between the needs of runners and also conservation and the breeding period for animals. So night events, it's a bit problematic in some of the months here, just because we share the country parks with all the other animals here that we find. And yeah, so that it continues right now to be the policy of the country parks department. But on the other hand, different departments, I think, have different emphasis. So for example, the tourism board, their view is that they want to welcome runners, tourists from all corners of the world. So for them, they definitely take the approach that yes, get as many runners from different countries as possible. I mean, it's great way to highlight what Hong Kong has, apart from the great shopping, great dining. It's our amazing countryside.
Yeah, you have an amazing backyard. We were talking about that yesterday. Thanks, Janet. We'll come back to you in due course. Diego, let's go to the other side of the world, please, and love to get some insights of how the industry started there.
Well, as I know, here in Argentina, almost, I could also talk about the continent. The first experience was 1997 with a very small race also here in Patagonia, here in Villa Langostura. In particular, we, with Patagonia Eventos, we started in the year 2000 with some short races, and which is today our main event, the K42. It started in the year 2003 with only 250 runners. And also, so as for you to give you a dimension of what it was, with the 42 kilometers, it was the longest race that everybody knew in Argentina and also in South America. Until that moment, the mountain races had a frame more connected to adventure, in couples, self-sufficient. We were one of the beginners of the initials to be related to mountain trail with the road runners, individual, with different categories by age, like in the road races, with supplies at every 5 kilometers, because before every runner had to be self-sufficient. In that process, we started to grow in Argentina and incorporating also in other places in Latin America. And today, it's something, it has grown tremendously in the activity. And we can give you an example, but now this weekend, we have here in Villa Angostura, where I am now, we have 3,200 runners in different distances, 15 kilometers and 42 kilometers. And for you to have an idea of how it has grown. And that generates a fluency of tourism to this locality, more than 6,000 tourists. It's pretty complex because Argentina, it's very difficult, and the monetary, the economy crisis, but it creates an incredible economic moment with 18,000 people sleeping, which was the statistic of last year in 2019, when it was also the World Cup of Mountain Trail Association.
Wow, that's amazing growth in a short period of time. I'm interested, obviously Latin America impacted significantly with COVID. I'm hearing, some events starting to come back in the road space and a few triathlons and things, and to hear of a trail run of 3,000. How is that comparing with what else is happening in the industry? And is your sense is that because of the fact that it's maybe slightly easier to social distance in a trail run, has it been easier for you to make a comeback, and government's been more supportive of the process?
In our case particular, we let the pandemic pass until the conditions improved. We didn't try to intend to accelerate the process and try to go accompany the government with it. They were before, and now we are here also, and they're sharing it with us. It hasn't been a problem, the pandemic, because we try not to do any event in all this period. And now we're starting to opening it from November of 2019 until now. So we haven't had restrictions, not us nor other organizations, that I think they have worked very responsibly in the rest of the continent, in the south part of the continent. And in January and February, some events already were held. In March, here in Patagonia, there were already big events. And I think we have evolutioned very responsibly, and we have been working well. In respect to the government, or all the governments, they do come with us, because obviously they have interest in this development, because there is a relationship between the economy and the government and the local communities. Normally, in different seasons, in the low seasons of these localities, there is an interest of receiving these events. So we could say that what is lacking is a projection of medium and far term, to be able to plan these things with the governments and be able to predict things in the medium term and in long term. This is what we're lacking, not only in Argentina, but in other countries of the continent. I could talk a little bit about the other countries, because we also have events in Brazil and Chile. We have been in Peru. I think that somebody of this session is also in Peru. We were in Colombia. So I see that they have also the same difficulty in respect to be the limit of improvise something and resolve something. And in America, that's a big challenge of being able to project it, because the developments of the events that have in Europe, because they're close to each other, I think that our big challenge in the Southern Hemisphere, in all the races that are being occurring here, is that we have to have some politics, internal politics, domestic politics, just to work in the region. And for America, it's a big challenge. And I think that this would only be possible, or not only that, but it could be a potentially better if we could work it together with the rest of federations, because the athletic federations have like a big umbrella of characteristics and standards of organizations, and unify the criteria. establish a calendar, a coherent calendar. And I think that by that way, the American continent, we should work, but potential our resources as a region, because it's notable the difference between the evolution in Europe, but in the last years of the evolution in Europe has been quicker than in the Southern Hemisphere. And I think that's our challenge.
Great, yeah, so collaboration, one of the big things that I think's come out of the mass participation industry generally out of COVID, one of the real positives, and hopefully that's coming more in your space, and this is obviously a great example of that. Let's come across, thank you for that, Diogo. Richard, let's come across to you. Love to get some insights in the US, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. So I think the story of trail running in the US, it's actually quite long. I mean, the real growth of events in the United States took place in the 1970s, 80s, and 90s. It was happening across the country in a lot of different geographies that were disconnected. Places like California, Colorado, New England. I think that growth was fueled by runners that were really interested in escaping the large crowds, the corporate structures, and the rules that were very common in road marathons and track and field at the time. I think that growth was also fueled by a growing interest in racing in nature and environmentalism. I think also what made the sport attractive was that, unlike some other running events, cross-country running and track events, trail running featured more equal opportunities for women to race. They would be racing the same distances. But even though I think the big growth was in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, that the racing goes back much, much further. A lot of the very first races in the United States started in the early 20th century. And interestingly, a lot of them were actually the result of a bet or a challenge. In 1905, the Dipsy race started in California. And that developed out of a growing interest in physical outdoor activity. And that was a 12K race, not a long race. In 1936, on the East Coast in New Hampshire, the Mount Washington race was started. That was a 12K uphill race, climbed over 1,200 meters. And that race was to commemorate the 1904 ascent of a group of friends. And then 1956, Pikes Peak Marathon in Colorado really started as a challenge to local smokers to see who could make it up and down the mountain. And I think the race that's probably best recognized in the United States in our sport is Western States. And the Western States 100-mile race actually started as a horse race. And in 1974, someone wanted to try to see if they could run it in under 24 hours. So I think the origins of trail running in the United States go back, over 100 years. They started for a variety of reasons. And I think that they are often very short races. I think it's also sort of a common misunderstanding that trail racing has to be like 100 miles or 50 miles. And in the United States, we see that 80% of runners are actually participating in sub-marathon distance events. So 5Ks, 10Ks. I think something that's also very typical of trail races in the United States is that they're small. They're local events organized by locals for locals. And a lot of them have a very sort of, not an anti-corporate kind of approach, but a very, they want to support local businesses and such. And I think one of the things that really restricts the growth of events to multi-thousands of participants is that these event directors have to get permits on public lands. So that restricts the size of the events, keeping a lot of them small. And but also I think a lot of event directors want their events to be small. They want something that feels intimate, that feels personal, where people can be in nature and connect with nature and not feel like they're in a big city marathon shoulder to shoulder with other people. So I think that's sort of, in a nutshell, kind of the growth of the United States of trail running.
Yeah, what an amazing legacy and history. So I'm interested then in terms of the commercial model, and I'd love to bring that back to some of the rest of the group as well, but just staying with you for a moment. I mean, those small events, are they commercially sustainable, or they're mostly kind of passion projects run by clubs that are, you mentioned, small in the community and so on. So, you know, almost like commerciality, profitability is a swear word, so to speak.
Yeah, I think to a certain degree, you know, I think that there are certainly race directors that do it as a passion project. There's others that do it as a charity, as a way to raise money for a small organization, which isn't to say that there aren't larger, very commercially successful events that take a very sort of corporate business-like approach. There are, and they do well. But I think the vast majority of races are small, and they don't necessarily want to worry too much about being commercially successful. And part of it is, I think they want to keep the races approachable. They want to keep the entry fees low. And so that's where, you know, on the subject of diversity, you know, we see a lot of variation in the race entry fees for, say, you know, a 50 mile in California versus a 50 mile in New England. You might be able to charge several $100s for one in California, and people in New England will be aghast by that price. You know, they might pay $40 or $50. And so I think that really drives kind of what's possible. And so race directors just sort of like, you know, scale the benefits that they provide to what they can reasonably charge, what people are willing to pay.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you. Clark, let's come back to you on that. So you're part of the Cape Town Marathon, so you've got the road element of it and you've got the trail element sort of side by side, sharing of infrastructure, which sounds like a great idea. And I think, you know, one of the opportunities for the mass participation industry generally is more kind of festivalization, as I call it. How does that kind of partnership work? Are you two kind of standalone events that come together, or is it a bigger collaboration than that? It's all intertwined into one. I think it'd be interesting and a bit of a sense of what a typical budget might be from, and recognize that it's going to vary wherever we are from around the world. Each territory is going to be different, but some kind of sense of, you know, maybe percentage-wise, it would seem to me that you're maybe quite well qualified on the panel in terms of having exposure to a road event and a trail event. Is there a kind of a sense of, you know, what a percentage cost on a trail event would be relative to a road event?
Thanks, Chris. Look, the Cape Town Trail Marathon was born out of the Cape Town Marathon, the Sanlam Cape Town Marathon. So it was almost years of leveraging off that brand, that good brand on the road running side. But we're fortunate, we've got Table Mountain and Ocean in a city. So it's easy to start a trail marathon on the back of that. In terms of the economics, trail marathons or trail runs have to leverage off their value proposition. They've got a unique value proposition, which is one, it's an adventure. It's not just a run. And a lot of the times you can do a prologue the night before and make a weekend out of it. And it's actually an adventure, and people are prepared to pay a greater entry fee for that. Another significant difference is the sponsorship. The sponsors have a story of that exists in the national park or the natural beauty, where there's a cause, there's a purpose. You are supporting the nature conservation usually. At the African Otter Trail Run, we support the marine protected biology areas, the penguins, and a big effort towards the jackass or African penguin. So there's a bigger story for the sponsors, and they like to get environment. They like the story behind the environment and what we're trying to do, and for that they will pay more. But the other, and because your numbers are limited, Richard's 100% right. It's always a trick in terms of economics. Is that one of the pieces of magic you do have is to attract more screen spectators. So how do we actually attract the screen spectators? Well, we've got this natural beauty, we've got good stories, a good purpose, a good cause, and there's a lot more variables to the racing in terms of the downhills and the uphills. And so we've got to leverage off the value proposition of the trails and what Trail Marathon brings. It's a lighter touch in terms of costs, quite significantly. The numbers are down, but you've got to increase expenditure on health and safety. So your emergency services are a lot more prominent, much greater expenditure. It's almost 3 times the expenditure as to a road marathon. But your entry fees are 4 times the price, 5 times the price of a road marathon, but your numbers are 10 times lower. So the budget in terms of our world, you can get away with a great trail marathon with a production at around 3 million Rand, which is about 150,000 pounds. But then our costs are in rand, so South African costs are much lower than anywhere else in the world. But you certainly want to beef that up in terms of your production and your broadcast ability, so that you're putting on a great show and attracting more screen spectators beyond that. So that's where we are.
That's great, thank you. So in terms of those costs, one of my senses might be that one of your big costs would be around safety, being ready to do evacuations and those kind of things. How does that work in terms of a kind of a percentage of budget, and does that have a big impact on your P&L for the event?
Chris, we're in a unique position in that we're a group of around about 10 major events that take place 50 weekends a year. And we saw the economies of scale with things like safety and emergency services. So, ours is a fixed cost that we plug into different events and then leverage off that scale and those personnel. But yes, in terms of something that's quite isolated, because you don't scale well geographically, and the African Otter Trail Run is in a different province to most of our events. It takes place in the Tsitsikamma forest, and their safety and emergency services amounts to around about 10% of our total cost. And that's the personnel on board, and they've got to be able to run as well. You can't have paramedics that can't get to a spot. Most of those spots are difficult to get to and difficult to run out. So they runners themselves come with a slight premium, but it equates to around about 10% of our total costs to put on the event on the weekend.
Yeah, that's an interesting stat. Thank you. Janet, I'd love to come back to you, and we've seen this explosion, and we've got about 10 minutes left. I'd love to get a sense from maybe all of the panelists, where's it going? So we've got this, Richard saying people looking to keep small events, boutique in their communities. We've obviously had the amazing presentation of UTMB and what's happening there. Is there scope for growth? Does trail running aspire to be an Olympic sport? And if so, what does that model look like? How do you please the purists and create a television property? What's your sense around those, please?
Well, for us out here, I have seen events that are like UTMB and smaller events. I think they are both really nice, and I think people are attracted to these different types of events for different reasons. And I think it's nice to have the option for everyone to choose what they prefer. There are people that will actually like something which is feel like a festival, whereas others will just want a quiet run with some old friends, make new ones, and it's a closer, a more personal experience. I think there is room for the different types of events, and there might be continuing divergence. It's possible that we're going to see more bigger of these big leagues and groups that are forming. But on the other hand, I think smaller events, passion projects, events that are held for charity reasons, they will be here to stay, and they will always get the support from a big group of trail runners that are just out there to preserve the values and to just really enjoy just being out and be in nature more than anything. With the Olympics, to me, I think it's a hugely interesting prospect, and I myself will be a strong proponent of it. And I think, to me, I think the majority of runners, at least out here, will support it. We love being involved, like whether we actually run ourselves or we would like to just see the elite, see these superhumans perform and sit and look at how people can do these amazing things and push our experience and see what is the limit of human endurance.
Thank you, Janet. Let's come back via you, Richard, and get your sense of where it's going. My sense, Janet, just quickly on yours, is that one of the challenges in terms of a growth of an industry, which we'd already alluded to, is you've kind of got finite trails in Hong Kong to some degree, and you've got those limitations. But in a big territory like America, and when we come to Diego, Latin America, there seems to be a much bigger canvas to be able to paint on. But love to get your sense, Richard, of where it's going, the Olympic story. Is there room for growth? Is the growth sustainable? Can you have this? Is it maybe part of it that it almost becomes the pathway of the passion projects, the smaller ones that build up to the bigger ones, and there's this whole ecosystem that can I guess coexist harmoniously?
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. I mean, I agree with what Janet said. I think that there's a place for all different types of events, whether they are UTMB sized or small community events. And even though small community events are more typical in the United States, there are so many of them that even if all of them were to increase in size by 50%, a 200-person race goes to a 300 or 400-person race across thousands of events. It's a lot of new participants. So I think it's just like incremental growth is going to come, and there's a lot of room for that because of so many events being small. And also, I think there's a growth opportunities amongst some demographic groups that are underrepresented right now. I think there's a lot of interest in the United States in bringing, more younger athletes, more women, more minorities. Also in bringing races to smaller natural venues that may be closer to big cities. Also bringing trail running to different body types as well. It doesn't just have to be skinny people. And I think there's also room for growth in innovation as well. I think in the United States, we see things like semi-informal events like the Barkley Marathons, which is a very quirky event. 200-mile events are becoming a thing. Relay events like what Ragnar has innovated around. Multi-day events like what Transrockies has done. Backyard ultras, last person standing. All these innovations are happening at a local level by small race directors, and they're just being sort of adopted by other parts of the country. So I think it's in the type of people that are racing, who we can attract to the sport is a growth opportunity. The types of new event styles that we can do. I think there's just a lot of opportunity. And as far as the Olympics, I think it would be great if we could do that. It would certainly help me as a federation representative get more of the better road and track athletes to come to our mountain and trail teams because we'd have better funding. And on the other hand, even if it resulted in a different format that was more TV friendly, I don't think that's going to have any effect on the multiple small events. The Olympic format will just be one of many, just like sky running or just like an ITRA certified race or just like a WMRA, world mountain running event. There's going to be a style that attracts, all kinds of different people.
Wonderful, thank you. Folks, we've got literally 5 minutes left, so I'm going to wrap it up by coming to you, Diego, to answer that, and then we'll finish up with Clark to answer that question. So over to you, Diego. Love to get your take on those, please.
I think that beyond what we're going to be sharing and the events that are going to be occurring, it's interesting how we can leave a space for all of them, all the runners. And we see in the region an intervention of the governments to control the security. And that has been a little bit absent in the last times. I think that the intervention of federations could help to give tools to governments to help to do those controls. And so that the participants can have good standards of security in all type of races. I think that's something that we should be doing. I think that we should also be working in a big frame of distances, from the short distances to long distances. In our region in Argentina, there has been a growth of ultra trails, and we're also putting emphasis that the people could also have big challenges in short distances from 10 to 20, but not necessarily the evolution has to go in the evolution of the ultra trails, but also, above all, the normal runner, recreational runners could find some distances, some short distances in good standard of living, to get to know the place, to get to know the people, and to stay there without the necessity of demanding a big effort to their body. I think this is a big important message that we should transmit to preserve the activity. And I put emphasis on this, although I'm a private entrepreneur, and that we have developed from the private company this articulation of the distances, because I think it's there in the difference in our knowledge in more than 100 years in the sport, in athletics, of understanding the time of the evolution and the support of us from the conception of what we know of our knowledge of the mountain trail races, how we can work and assure the activity for the future. And not only take a risk that this boom, we can commit errors that could damage this good perspective that we have for the future.
Yeah, so manage the boom, make sure it's controlled. Just very quickly, and we're almost out of time. So 30 seconds on the Olympics, and then I'll come to you to wrap up on the Olympics as well, please, Clark.
Chris, yeah, I think the Olympics would go a long way to incentivize the attraction of trail runners, especially away from road. Part of the reason we don't see many African trail runners dominating trail like they do the marathons is the money is extremely different. From appearance fees is non-existent in trail runners, as opposed to the prize money is multiples more. So I think the Olympics will go a long way to attracting the trail runners. And increasing the growth of the sport. And yes, I agree with Diego's comments that will bring its own challenges as soon as these numbers get bigger and the commercials get bigger. And hopefully we can keep the authenticity of the sport. But I'm all pro for the Olympics. I think it will go a long way to growing the sport.
Wonderful, thank you. And Diego, just quickly, a thumbs up for the Olympics as well? Just in
of course, yes.
20 seconds.
Yes, the important thing is to find a frame attractive for the television and maintain short distances as a show, but of course it could have popular runners. So on one side, I mean, thinking like with the marathon, high athletes, elite, but at the same time to show the participation of a variety of women and men that allows mountain trail.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful discussion. As I said at the beginning, I think we could have gone on for an hour. Alessio kindly messaged me partway through and said, this is such a fantastic panel. Let's go for another 10 minutes. So thank you for your great contributions. A big thank you, Diego Sorba, Managing Partner, Patagonius Events, Richard Bolt, Mountain and Trail Running Team Leader, USA Track and Field, Clark Gardner, President, Otter African Trail Run, and Janet Ng, President, International Trail Running Association and Trail Runners Association, Hong Kong. Wonderful discussion. Thank you so much for your input.
Thank you, Chris.
See you. Thank you.
As we say goodbye to that wonderful panel, we get ready for an update on the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai. And I'm delighted to welcome, and it's been an epic trip, just off a plane from London, I believe. We head up to Bangkok in Thailand. Kun Tapani Kiat Pai Boon, Deputy Governor, Tourism Authority of Thailand, and joined by Kun Kopkiat Sangwet Wanit, Secretary to the local organizing committee for the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai. And not on the screen, but supporting and a huge support of the show over there, Kun Surapong Ari Mongkol, Vice President and General Secretary, Athletics Association of Thailand. A big welcome, Kun Tapani and Kun Kopkiat.
All right, thank you, Chris, and hi everyone. So on behalf of the Tourism Authority of Thailand, just being back from UK, London this morning. Did you hear me? Okay. So it's a pleasure to attending the meeting and hear many good information about the trail and marathon running. And sorry. Okay. All right, did you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. Thank you, Kun Tapani.
Okay. Okay. And I think I see you Zoom again, the executive representative from the World Athletics, that you are Chris, and World Mountain Running, International Trail Running Association, and representative from UTMB Group, International Association from Trail Runners, and definitely representative from Thailand team, to give us the Thailand opportunity of the host of the city the world first mountains and trail running championship in Chiang Mai. As you probably know, that Chiang Mai is one of the world renowned as one of the best destinations for many years, including this year, the top world-based vacation in 2021. For hosts of the country of the world first mountain, I think it's not only me, but all Thai and Chiang Mai people feel so proud and happy to be the host and pleased to welcome you all. First of all, I have to confirm you that our organization committee have been working very, very hard all year round, trying to put this World Championship come out dates, because this is the first time for Chiang Mai. Next year also will be the Visit Thailand year 2022, which is announced in the WTM World Travel Mart last night. Amazing new chapter we call Visit Thailand year 2022 amazing new chapter. Our event, the World Running in Chiang Mai, will be one of the highlight of the magnificent event for the new chapter next year. So I think as we the same situation that the whole world has to deal with the pandemics. But by the way, country have to move on. You might heard from the worldwide media that according to the direction of our Prime Minister, Kun Prayut Chan-o-cha, Thailand is moving forward a new chapter in all dimensions. As you may recall, we have the Phuket Sandbox starting from the 1st of July. That is one of the successful pilot projects to open the country, to open the kingdom to tourists. But okay, we have the 14 days quarantine and then reduced to 7 days respectively. But recently, with an exciting scheme, the new scheme, Thailand has announced opening the country on the 1st of November, just 3 days ago, for the international vaccinated visitor from 63 approved low-risk country can now travel to Thailand with no quarantine requirement. I think maybe Thailand is among the first of the risk with no quarantine. The traveler can to stay at least 1 night. If you have received the negative result from the RT-PCR test, you can go free after you got the negative result. But if you are not in the list of the country, I mean 63 approved country, low-risk country, you still require 7 days in the destination and 10 days in the hotel. For the information of the official updated, you can visit our website, official date, tatnews.org. But back to the amazing Thailand World Mountain and Trail Running Championship in Chiang Mai. After we have been discussion with the local organizing committee, we would like to reassure that we are ready to organize the event in February. By the way, with some condition and procedure regarding the public health measurements, I think it might be a little bit barrier and cause some problem, but TAT and all partners will definitely co-in-hand to negotiate ease of traveling. We do at the moment, we also, negotiate every day for a visitor coming to Thailand and for the runner coming to Thailand also. My new team, I think that my new team, they are also in the Zoom, led by Kun Krisadai, Executive Director, Event Department, and the team from TAT are here to observe and listen and facilitate our agenda. You might need to know more. But personally, I want to drive competition as quickly as possible. Would it happen as soon as possible, because it will be a part of building the confident bring back economy, making industry related, making industry, I think it's all the industry in the value chain of the sport tourism and also the tourism in Thailand is huge. I would like to bring back this mind, exactly demonstrating the potential of organizing the world-class event in Thailand to the world, especially showing Chiang Mai in every angle to the world. But definitely the judgment probably not due to their own personal opinion only. I would like to have some, comments from everyone here, the World Athletics, the World Mountain Running, International Trail Running, and also I would like to hear from the local organizing committee. So please feel free to share your comment and recommendation. But by the way, I hope that with the local committee from Thailand, Thai Leagues, Kun Gop Kiat, and also my team, and also the Ministry of Tourism and Sport, and also the Tourism Authority of Thailand. The result from meeting today will be reported to our minister and to coordinate and make it happen by the early next year. Yes, this is from ourselves.
เดี๋ยวพี่กังรอแป๊บนึงนะครับ
ค่ะ เมื่อกี้พอดีมีสายเข้า Sorry, they have some calling from where's my mobile. So sorry.
That's okay, no problem, no problem. Tom, would you like to share your update? There we are. You're back now, Kun Tapani.
Yes. First of all, I think Tapani just need to have a bit break because she just flew from London. I don't think she has enough sleep. Would you mind if she can leave?
Okay, I can hear from you because Kun Gop Kiat, Kun Tom can, he will be updated from for the event, and I think it's very important that the result of the meeting today will be, report back to our Minister of Tourism and Sport, and also the governors of the Tourism Authority of Thailand for the next chapter. Maybe, we will know and we will negotiate more and we will facilitate more. And my team will be going hand with all partners in Thailand to make it happen at the base that we can.
Thank you so much, Kun Tapani. Thank you for making the time to join us off your flight from London. Hope you get some good rest, and we'll leave it in Tom's capable hands to give us the update from his side. And then after that, we're going to welcome Alessio and Hilary to come and give us to moderate some Q&A that the delegates might have.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you very much. Khop kun kap.
Thank you, Chris. Hello, everyone. I think as we has been announced that we are the first World Mountain and Trail Running Championships, and that will be held in Chiang Mai. Actually, it's scheduled on this November, but as Miss Tapani informed you that it's not be able to run in this moment, but we are trying to make it happen on February. But all the decision will be up to you guys, ITRA and World Athletic with the World Mountain Association. By the way, I just flew back from Chiang Mai, and because of our order from our minister on behalf of the government, we are very hungry to run the first ever World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in Chiang Mai. And also another side, Chiang Mai will be a host in Doi Intanon of the Thailand by UTMB in very soon. So to give you a confidence, Thailand is ready. But in the regarding to the rule and regulation of Ministry of Health, we still need to listen to them. So in this difficult time in Southeast Asia, especially in Asia, I think Thailand is one of the most ready country to run the trail and the road race running events in Asia. So I only can give you a confidence that Thailand is ready and government is hungry, and we are seriously looking forward to run the trail in soon and forever. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tom. Thanks for that. I'm now going to welcome in Alessio Punzi, the road running manager, World Athletics, and Hilary Walker, the Secretary General of the International Association of Ultra Runners. We've got a couple of questions here, and we're going to leave that and have Alessio and Hilary together with Tom to moderate those. Over to you, Alessio, and Hilary, are you coming in?
I think we probably need to clarify quite what our current situation is. We did have discussions and meetings yesterday, which were unanimous between the LOC, all our international bodies, and including Alessio in the discussion, that at this point, and we had decided that we knew that we had to come back to the federations early in November with a decision. And at this point, because of the situation with the fact that the health authorities in Thailand will not allow more than those 63 countries in, then the participation in a championship in February would not be truly global. At the moment, we have South America would only have one country, Central America wouldn't have any, and Africa wouldn't have any unless they undertook very prohibitive, 1, vaccination, and 2, the quarantine. So we can't guarantee that we could have exemptions by February next year at the moment. So we very, very reluctantly have decided that we will postpone until November next year. All the things that were being arranged for November this year and then February next year, would be moving to November next year. We then, so at this point, I think we have made a decision that we will need to postpone. Alessio, do you have anything additional to say to that?
Well, yes, it is unfortunate, but I would just like to stress why this decision was made. Many countries would have not been able to enter Thailand. That was the reason. We could have had a World Championships of some sort, but the partnership felt it wasn't appropriate to have the event only with a limited number of countries. Therefore, also in consideration of the fact that the country has only reopened to international travel 2 days ago, 1st of November, as opposed to 1st of October, which was the date initially agreed on. Hence, the partnership wasn't able to make the necessary site visits. The decision has been made to postpone the event to November. Now, there are some questions here, Hilary. Let's see if we can together answer them.
Yes, certainly.
So the first one is from Stephen in South Africa. Can you give an idea of what costs will be covered in Thailand for competing athletes in the World Championships, accommodation, assistance with flights? Well, the short answer, Stephen, is that the conditions don't change. Hilary, you want to elaborate a bit on that? The fact that teams are being offered allowances and so on.
Right. The local organisation had offered and will still offer to have subsidised accommodation from costs between $50 a night until $100 a night at different accommodation. There also would be discounted internal flights from Bangkok to Chiang Mai of around about $120. And there would also be competition grants being provided, which would be graded according to how many athletes you sent. If, for instance, there are 2 single athletes, they would for per federation, it would be $1,000, leading to a maximum of $5,000 if you had 4 scoring teams. We would send out this further information again after we've had it reconfirmed by the LOC in the coming weeks.
Yeah, thanks. This also answers Manuela's question about flights for how many athletes from which countries are they. I think it does. David is asking, is the event confirmed? Yes, the event is confirmed. In terms of date, we are still unable to pinpoint one, but most likely it will be the 3rd weekend in November. Why? Because as many of you, I'm certain, have seen today, also the World Half Marathon Championships, which were scheduled for March next year in China, have been now postponed to November, 2nd weekend in November, 13th of November. So first weekend is New York Marathon weekend, then World Half Marathon Championships, then probably on the 3rd weekend, long weekend, there will be the Trail Running Championships. It is disappointing. We know, even if it's not a World Athletics event, we are very much invested. It is disappointing also for Francesco. Unfortunately, I wish we were, but we're not. For the junior events, especially in the mountain running, because with the past 1 year, some athletes would lose the opportunity to compete in the junior categories. We will come up with a Nations Cup of sorts or some junior-only World Championships to allow athletes who would have participated in the 2021 championship in the junior category a competition opportunity. And then the actual championships will take place in grand fashion in November. Hilary, quickly about the timelines.
Oh, we will probably be sending out the general information sheets in July with the normal preliminary and final entry forms for August and October, respectively.
Thanks, Hilary. And while we hand it back to Chris for the continuation of the session, maybe you can type the email address of the partnership here in the chat, in the chat box, so that interested federations and athletes and anyone who really wonders why this decision was made, more than happy to explain the ins and the outs, the pros and the cons, to make you part of to give you full details of how the decision was eventually made. Thank you. Over to you, Chris.
Will do.
Thank you, Hilary. Thank you, Alessio, and thank you prior to that, Kun Tapani Kiat Paibun and Kun Kopkiat Sangwentan. Thank you very much for joining us, and we're going to move on to the next session. And we're just going to make a slight change in the order because we've got a man who's on the road, who is waiting to catch a flight in transit to Munich. We have Ide Rutkowski, competition and anti-doping coordinator from European Athletics, who is on his way to Munich. He's in transit and we're running a little bit behind, and we want to just ensure that he gets his segment in, and we will then come back to Alessio and Mark. So as we bring Ide on, he's going to be speaking about continental events, the new European Off-Road Championships. A big welcome, Ide. Thank you for making the time to make this fit into your schedule in between your flights, and hand it over to you. You should have screen share, and if you could bring your presentation up and go ahead, please.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity, and hello everyone from Frankfurt. Well, quiet corner in Frankfurt Airport, and it's a great opportunity for European athletics that we have the chance and this platform to give a bit of updated information about our brand new event, which incorporates not only mountain running, but also the trail running. So a small history about European athletics and its engagement with mountain and trail running. So the very first edition of the European Mountain Running Trophy was held in 1994, which was still not recognized or sanctioned by any world governing body, but this has changed in 95, from which year actually WMRA started to recognize the European Mountain Running Trophy. And then 2001 was the big change from when the concept changed. The trophy was transferred into a championships format, and from 2001 in 2019, European Mountain Running Championships were held all across Europe on an annual basis, uphill, then the next year up and downhill. And then in 2019, European Athletics Congress approved the transition of European Mountain Running Championships into European Athletics Off-Road Running Championships. And I will show in my next slide what it really means. So the concept was to create an event which integrates not only mountain running, but the fast-growing trail running movement as well. And because of organizational considerations, the event was moved from an annual basis to a biannual basis. And it has completely replaced the mountain running championships. And the other big change was to move from a purely elite competition to an elite and mass participation competition. So integrating not only the top athletes of the given disciplines, but also offering the platform to mass participation athletes to compete exactly on the same course, exactly in the same setup as the elite athletes, which can really be appealing. And there have been several good examples like triathlon or other sports where actually elite and mass participation athletes, they compete together on the same course, not at the same time, but still giving the opportunity to have the feeling that you are as recognized as an elite athlete. Luckily, the concept was very well received from the European athletics community. European athletics has decided to continue with its standard approach towards the bidding application. So we are not contacting directly event organizers or bidders, but we open the door for our member federations to declare their interest to host our events, which are integrated into our portfolio. Nevertheless, we have given preference to those candidates which were bringing in a venue, an organizer which is an established and preferably ITRA recognized trail event organizer at the same time, making sure that even though we are new in this business, the knowledge for the trail running will be there, available both on the LOC side and then hopefully in a couple of years also on European athletics side. As I mentioned before, we're really keen on applying a same day, same course concept. So elite and mass participation athletes would compete on the same day on the same course. So it gives an opportunity for the mass participation athletes to compare their performances with the elite athletes. Well, we know athletics is all about data and comparison, so that we feel that it's a good opportunity for the measurement of your quality of your condition. And as at all our European athletics events, European athletics will offer financial and commercial benefits and opportunities to the local organizing committee. So beside the participants, we do feel that this will be an event which will remain appealing to the organizers, and they can see also the benefits on their side, organizing a continental event. So as I briefly mentioned, the interest was quite high, and though the idea was to allocate only the very first edition, which is scheduled for July 2022, but because very good bidding applications were received, European Athletics Council decided to allocate actually straight 2 editions. So the first inaugural edition will be in El Paso, Spain, in 2022, while the second edition will be La Féclaz in France in 2024. Now we will get back to El Paso and the venue of the first edition, but let me present you a bit the overall concept of the event, which is designed for next year. So the elite program would consist of 3 disciplines, offering the chance for the best mountain runners to compete both in the uphill and up and downhill competitions if they wish. So the 2 mountain races are separated with the trail running day. So day 1 accommodates the uphill race in a standard discipline, which will be in line with the World Athletics Competition rules. Trail running here, we are on the continent, we are slightly different from World Athletics and the World Championships. We are going to a shorter discipline or shorter distance, sorry, fitting into the category M on the ITRA, let's say, standard. And then the last day of the championships would see the up and downhill classic mountain race, again for the junior, under 20 category and the senior category. Important to mention that while mountain running, we have a quite significant tradition and well-established under 20 and senior category races. For the trail running, it's not existing yet. So there we are only delivering senior category for the elite athletes. We are working close with the colleagues in Spain, and we really hope that the exact distances and profiles will be available very soon and published on all available platforms. Again, as it's a standard approach for European athletics events, we have preliminary entries and final entries 3 months and 10 days before the event. So the dates you can see on the screen, and the entries would be made through the standard European athletics entry system. And the finances, we are not only supporting the organizers, but we also offer financial support to the participating teams, which are in principle covering the cost of their full board accommodation of the scoring athletes, which are 3 per race. In the elite races for not more than 3 nights. So it's quite a well-received support. It helped also significantly the development of mountain running, and we trust that this will also help the engagement and development of the trail running discipline. Beside the elite races, we will have the mass participation races, and here we really much rely on the actual experience of the given organizer. In El Paso, they are traditionally organizing the Reventon Trail event, and their races will be part of the overall championships program. So on day 0, they will do the Reventon night run, which is a very short but very, very beautiful uphill race overnight. On day 1, they are not doing any uphill races, but the trail running on day 2 and the mountain running on day 3, they remain exactly the same as for the championships. As I mentioned, same day, same course concept is being delivered. While on the elite side, European Athletics has the duty to promote these disciplines and engage the member federations and the top athletes by offering them financial support. This will not be necessarily the case for the mass participation athletes. So all the costs related to their participation will be the duty of the participants. Nevertheless, we are working close with all the organizers, making sure that they are creating competitive packages for the mass participation athletes, including accommodation, transportation to the venues, so to help the athletes in really feeling comfortable at the venue. And their entries would not happen through European Athletics system, but through the established registration of the organizing committee. And here I should display you a very nice promotional video about El Paso and the event next year. Unfortunately, the current status is a bit under question mark. I'm sure all of you have heard, especially those who are based in Europe, about the volcano eruption in the island of La Palma. There are good sides and downsides, of course. It's the volcanic eruption is taking away a lot of resources from the local organizing committee, since it's a small community, and members of the LOC are also engaged with the protective measures and works related to the eruption. However, they remain determined and dedicated to deliver the event next year. So for them, it's a kind of sign of getting back to normality. But of course, the main condition would be to ensure the safety of all the participants. European Athletics is in a regular contact with the organizers and supervising the situation, and the decision about the actual staging or reallocation of the event will be made by the end of this year. But again, just to repeat, the LOC is really keen on delivering the event. They can control a lot of things. Unfortunately, they cannot control the volcano and the lava flow. So that's in a very short, brief period. Thank you so much for your attention. And of course, we really hope to see all of you, or many of you, in El Paso next year.
Thank you so much, Ide. Wonderful to have your insights and for you to have squeezed this in between flights. We wish you a safe onward flight, and congratulations and all the best in your planning for the next summer's European Athletics Championships, and a safe return home. I'm not sure whether you're going back to Budapest or Lausanne afterwards, but safe travels. A big thank you, everyone. Ide Rutkowski, I got it right the first time. I'm going to give it another go. Ide Rutkowski, Competition and Anti-Doping Coordinator, European Athletics. Thanks so much, Ide.
Thank you so much, Chris. And of course, I remain available for any questions also here or via email.
Thank you. Safe travels as we get ready to welcome back Alessio Punzi, Road Running Manager, World Athletics, together with Mark Hurst, bidding manager, World Athletics. They're going to have a conversation about the World Championships of the future, hosting opportunities, both in Monaco, sitting a few meters away from each other, but on separate screens. Big welcome, Mark and Alessio. Over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I'll go first. No, normally when we do these webinars, we really have presentations about the bidding opportunities for the next events, but this time we thought to make it a bit more interactive. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Alessio. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, good. As we were talking literally 5 seconds ago. So, Mark, we have opened now. It's been a disappointing afternoon with actually 2 postponement news of World Half Marathon Championships as well as Trail Running Championships, both happening in the second half of 2022, but neither of them in the initially agreed time frame. However, we are already planning for 2023. There is, I understand, bid guides, a bid procedure that just launched for 2023, the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships. As the bidding manager of World Athletics, can you tell us more about this event? Where are we?
Sure, happy to, and delighted to see such a wide-ranging global audience here today. How can you not love this event? The World Mountain and Trail Running Championships is essentially where the world's very best off-road runners are released into the wild. But let me give you a brief overview of the competition. The event is held over 3 days, either before the 15th of June or after the 15th of September in 2023, with the elite international athletes competing in a total of 10 official world championships, taking place across 4 competition formats. First, you have the classic up and down mountain race, which is circa 12 kilometers or 2 times 6K loop with a 300 to 450 meter elevation gain per loop. For this, there are 4 World Championship races, including senior men, senior women, under 20 men, and under 20 women. Second, you have the vertical mountain race, which is a 4 to 7 kilometer race with 700 to 1,000 meter total elevation gain. And for this, there are 2 World Championship races, including senior men and women. Third, you have the long trail, which is around a 80 kilometer race with 3,500 to 6,000 meters total elevation gain. For this, there's just 1 race with senior men's and women's World Championship rankings. And fourth, you have the short trail, which is circa 40 kilometers with 2,000 to 3,000 meter total elevation gain. Again, there's just 1 race here with senior men and senior women World Championship rankings. But as well as the elite World Championship races, the local organizing committee is also free to arrange other open or promotional races for recreational runners.
And if you are a race organizer or a federation official and wonder how we came up with these distances, you could check the World Athletics book of rules. There is, since a couple of years, a rule that binds together mountain and trail running. It was developed working together with ITRA and the WMRA, and these are standard World Championships distances. So, Mark, this is interesting from a competition standpoint. Let's talk about event marketing now. I understand, I know that this property is very different from the other World Athletics series properties. Can you tell us what commercial rights are available and why is potentially interesting for hosts?
Yeah, let me tell you about the organization here as well, because this is a real team effort. World Athletics assists the World Mountain Running Association, the International Trail Running Association, and the International Association of Ultra Runners in organizing this event. There is a hosting fee of $100,000 US, and that's divided amongst those 3 organizations to finance the operational running costs and to keep these disciplines alive and well. But the extent of rights on offer for this event are extremely appealing. There are full commercial rights. They're granted to the local organizing committee, including media and broadcasting rights, title sponsorships, and unlimited sponsorship partnership categories. There's also a number of other significant monetization opportunities, such as mass participation race entry fees, merchandise, concession revenue, expo sales, conference admission fees, and as well travel packages.
So Mark, you're saying that the hosts have full unconditional commercial rights for the event, and this is pretty interesting in that it allows to monetize the event in ways other events don't.
Absolutely, it's a really good opportunity, and it's only limited by imagination, I guess.
Yeah, great stuff. Now you talked about revenues. About talking about costs. What are the costs for the host beside the hosting fee?
Okay, well, we'll be sharing the event organization agreement with candidates that have provided an expression of interest that will set out more of this information in order to help candidates build their event budget. But a quick overview of 3 of the main budget costs are on accommodation, international travel, and prize money. Accommodation first. For accommodation and meals, the organizing committee is responsible for the full board accommodation for the following up to 3 quota athletes across the 10 World Championship events. So maximum 30 quota athletes for 4 nights per national team. And there were previously around 50 national teams. Between 1 to 4 team officials for each of these national teams for 4 nights, depending on the number of quota athletes enrolled, as well as 10 competition delegates, 3 of those delegates for 5 nights and 7 for 4 nights. Then on international travel, the organizing committee is responsible for the international travel costs for a maximum of 10 competition delegates. The organizing committee will be asked to also propose an international travel grant for quota athletes in their budget, and this will be evaluated in the bid application form. Then on prize money, the organizing committee will also be asked to propose a prize money purse in their budget, and this will also be evaluated in their bid application form.
Right, Mark. So there's a lot of information there, lots of number you mentioned. Would you be able to share a link with interested properties?
Yeah, happy to put something in the chat after this. Yeah.
Perfect. So, Mark, all I know, why is it interesting for a race organizer, for a region, for a mountain resort to invest in the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships?
How can you not love this event, Alessio? The return on the investment can be very rewarding across a number of pillars. As a landscape-based endurance event, this is an ideal opportunity to engage a host's community and to showcase its region and its unique beauty to the world. There is the direct economic benefit of athletes, officials, spectators, recreational runners, and their supporters in visiting and spending money in your region, often repurposing off-season resorts. There's also this social benefit on physical and mental health. This event might be the perfect catalyst to promote running, health, and well-being as a very natural preventative medicine. Then there's also the image and reputational benefit with global media profile and reach of this event that can create a huge marketing boost for the region. This event is a perfect combination of world-class endurance sport and destination marketing. And all of this can be achieved in harmony with the environment to demonstrate to internal and external stakeholders an authentic walk the talk commitment to sustainability, which is at the top of the agenda at the moment, as well as having a lasting and meaningful legacy. The World Championship courses can be retained with marked trail routes and finishing times to leave a tangible memento for future weekend warriors and adventure seekers. The trails can become a new home for existing races, national championships, or even help launch new races.
Thanks, Mark. And finally, would you please remind me and the attendees here of the timelines for the event, of the bidding timelines for the event?
Yes, of course, Alessio. I'd be remiss of me not to. Well, we launched the bid process in September for the Mountain and Trail Running Championships 2023. The expression of interest deadline was on Monday, 1st of November this week, but we're fine to keep this open until midnight Central European time on Friday, 5th of November, for any new candidates that would like more information following today's session. All we need is to receive a confirmation of the name of the candidate city or region and details of a point of contact for the bid. And then we'll share the bid application form and the event organization agreement, as well as a template budget to be completed. The major next steps are that the application form is due for submission on the 1st of February next year, and the event will be awarded in April.
Okay, so if you're an event organizer and you like the sound of this, just pop a message to Mark before the end of the week, and then you will be. It's not the application deadline; it's the expression of interest deadline. So let us know that you exist. The event might interest you, and Mark will take it from there. That's all from me, Mark.
Yeah, thanks, Alessio. And I'll copy a link to our website for a brief summary of some of the information we talked about today. And I'll also put my email address in there if you want to reach out to me and discuss this event in more detail, or to send the expression of interest. I'm happy to receive that and happy to speak to you.
Thanks so much, Mark and Alessio. Mark Hurst, Bidding Manager, World Athletics. Alessio Punzi, Road Running Manager, World Athletics. Thanks for those insights, and a great event to be a part of, absolutely. Thank you so much. And we move on now to give me great pleasure to welcome Jonathan Wyatt, President, World Mountain Running Association. And he is going to talk about mountain running, the WMRA World Cup. Welcome, Jonathan.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thanks, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here.
You pop your video on for us. There we go. We got you there, Jonathan. Welcome. We'll hand over to you. Oliver's going to drive your slides for you. So if you could just call out next when you want them, and we'll launch that in 2 minutes and get under, or 2 seconds and get underway.
So yeah, I'd just like to introduce you to what we do, and one of our core parts of our organisation is to organise the World Mountain Running World Cup. So if that's up on the screen, is that there, Chris? Okay, I think we're all there with us. So let's move on to the second slide already. So the World Mountain Running Association. It's worth maybe just for our broader audience, just to give you a quick rundown about who we are. So we like to think of ourselves as the federation for the federations. We've been working since 1984 for organising competitions for the World Athletics member federations, and what our vision is to give opportunities for runners to compete on the international stage. And we organise competitions for runners from 16 all the way up to 80 years of age. We are the official partner for World Athletics for organising mountain running competitions, and we've had a long history since 1984. First with organising World Trophy competitions, regional competitions, including, as Ida mentioned, the European Mountain Running Trophy in the beginning. And now we organise, we are now entering into the partnership, of course, with both with World Athletics and ITRA and IAU for the first World Mountain and Trail Running Championships, which, as we all know, has had a slightly difficult birth, but we are dedicated to the cause, and we are looking forward to finally getting that underway as soon as it's possible to do that. So let's move on. Next slide. So what is the World Cup? Well, it's nothing too complicated. It's what we really want to do with it is to bring together the world's top mountain runners all together to have top competition. And it's also about bringing together the world's top mountain races as well. So we started in 1999 with this, again, talking about off-road running, which really is a comparatively new global sport, but mountain running certainly has been a part of it since the first, really since the early years of organising mountain races. So we're now in our 22nd edition of the World Cup. It started with just 4 races in 1999, and today we've been happy to see it grow and grow. Also, as we know, the off-road running world has grown and grown. So next slide, please, there, Oliver. Thank you. So where are we today? We have, and we've just concluded our 2021 World Cup. We had 16 races. We offer 3 disciplines. So we have what we call our classic mountain running discipline. So that would be a race between 10 and 10 kilometers and the half marathon. And typically you could probably say for every 10 kilometers, if you climb 1,000 meters, that's 10%. That will be a typical mountain running gradient. We have a long distance race as well, races, and they're anything above the 21-kilometer distance. And we also offer a short uphill category as well. And those are typically very, very steep races, often only 3 or 4 kilometers, and can climb as much as 1,000 meters in that distance. This year we had 8 hosting countries, more than 8,000 runners competing. And in the final classification, 38 different countries represented. So we've been very pleased with how this year has gone in terms of building the World Cup series. So let's move on to the next one. Oliver, next slide. So why do we need a World Cup? So that's a question we've asked ourselves as an organisation over the years since I've been involved with the WMRA, going back now 4.5 years. But for me, it's fundamental to what we do, because we are creating links to the professional and private races that are out there that we all know are becoming more and more popular. We're also able to talk to a completely different audience, maybe runners that have never been involved with organized athletics. So this is their first contact with what we do at the World Mountain Running Association. And of course, it really just gives great stories during the year, during the season. And let's not forget to run on the mountains and run up in the nature is great fun. And I hope some of the images that I'm showing on the screen show that sense of amazement of being out in these wonderful environments. And for us, it's also really important that we give our athletes a platform to perform. And that means being able to bring the top athletes together, to offer them a competitive series and to really showcase just how good they are and how good our sport is as well. And finally, I talk about creating a product. Now the World Cup, when I first started in the organization, I would probably say was more of a burden than an asset, especially financially. But today, just 3.5 years later, we now have a World Cup which is standing on its own 2 feet. And we're also seeing that it's becoming more and more attractive for sponsors. And it's certainly going to be a very important cornerstone for our organization to be financially independent as well. So let's move on to the next slide there, Oliver. Thank you. And so where are we today? So as we've just concluded our 2021 World Cup, what we're now finding is that there are more top runners wanting to be a part of it and follow the whole series. It's having more prestige. We're living in a very commercial world, and we're finding that that athletes are having the World Cup competitions included as part of their bonus, for example. So that's very pleasing to see that there's an emphasis on what we do commercially. We're finding that more and more races want to be a part of it. So let's not forget we're in a very competitive off-road running world, and races do want a point of difference, and the credibility of being involved with our organization, as well as being a partner to World Athletics, is really appealing for races. And I also think for the member federations that are endorsing these races. So it's a real asset. The events, I always talk about inspiration and aspirational. So we're finding that, as I said, there are more athletes wanting to get involved with it. And it's also about inspiring the next generation as well, and seeing runners compete against each other, battling it out week in, week out. Is a really positive and healthy image to be able to project also for our next young runners coming into the sport. So let's move on to the next slide there. Thank you. So then I just talk about what's the big appeal. So next slide. So I like to sum that up with just one image, which is here in full screen. So I talk about. It's about the competition. We all love testing ourselves, and we're seeing greater participation, and not just in the elite side, of course. And I talk about mass participation, as we've already heard, even entering into races is becoming quite a challenge just because of the popularity of the sport. It's about the health benefits of being, again, of the health and fitness, and again, let's not forget we're in the middle of a pandemic, in case anybody forgot about, and so it's a very emotive subject, and the health benefits of what we do is also a big appeal, and I'm talking about appeal not just in terms of ourselves, but also commercially, in terms of sponsorship, and why would other brands, why would a commercial entity want to get involved with what we do, and another great thing about this photo, so let's have a look at the people there in the background. It's about applauding great performances, and it's a real spectacle. So our mountain running competitions are not very complicated. It's pretty easy to understand what's happening in a race. Quite often it's who gets to the top of the mountain first. So it's very approachable as a sport to applaud and be a part of. And of course, finally, look at the background. It's in the beautiful mountains. So being outdoors and the simplicity of being out in nature is hugely appealing, and not just appealing for us, but as we're finding, as we're all finding, brands and partners are wanting to get involved with what we do. So next slide then, Oliver. And here we are. Yeah. So you can just see these types of images we're seeing more and more of, and I'll put my own my day job hat on here. I work for as a consultant for the outdoor sports brand La Sportiva, and we are seeing also commercially the rise of off-road running, being such a simple sport, and all those benefits which I've just mentioned previously. So for us, organising a World Cup series, we're very well positioned to be a part of that. And I also encourage, if you're a member federation or a race organizer yourselves, to think about getting involved with what we do, because we're finding there's more and more interest in this sector. So next slide then. So yeah, how do we take advantage of this situation that we're in now, which in a way we're quite, let's say, fortunate to be in. Not fortunate because of what's happening around the world, but we're certainly seeing that the simplicity of running is hugely appealing in these times. So let's just highlight how we've just taken advantage of this during this past year. So we really pushed ourselves. We brought in more races than we've ever done before into the World Cup. And we're really striving for a very professional approach in what we do. And so we've invested in improved delivery of our World Cup series. We also made an investment into a media partnership program. So initially targeting some key media outlets that are focused on off-road running. And we've seen minimums of 375,000 people per post who are following each part of each post from our World Cup. So that's very pleasing to see the interest in what we're doing, and to sort of fuel that. It's crucial to have a good content coming out from each of the events. So we invest also in live reporting. And our own WMRA media manager distributes these reports, and including reports to World Athletics that we are able to get up within hours of the event occurring. And we also want to target not just our own trail running or mountain running focused media. We also target the more mainstream running media as well, and in the future also general running media. Because again, off-road running, doing something outdoors is hugely appealing. Let's move on to the next one. So as a part of that, another strategy which we've also put in place for this year. So as I said, it's been a very busy year for the WMRA. but it ties into what we're doing with the World Cup, is the launch of the World Mountain Running Ranking. And I encourage you to have a look at the site. The website address is in the red box there. And what we really missed in the past is really knowing who are our top mountain runners. We could always see who the top mountain runners were from the World Championships, but who were the best runners through the whole season. So we really needed a way to define who are our top mountain runners throughout the year. So this was the birth of the World Mountain Running Ranking. And so the World Cup races are all included in this ranking system, as well as more than 100 races, mountain races from each year. We really wanted to make it very simple and easy to understand, and the calculation is clear and it's written on the website. So there's nothing difficult about knowing what goes on and how the points are calculated. It's also free and inclusive. It's free because we are able to decide which are the top mountain runners without any influence of payment or people that or races that maybe are not as mountain running focused as we would normally include. And it was very important also to use this as a service to athletes and the races themselves. So for athletes to be able to promote themselves via their own ranking, and for racers to have a profile in terms of World Mountain Running Association has also been a big benefit. And finally, to have a historical database of mountain running results is going to be great going forward. So let's move on. And now the future for the Mountain Running World Cup. Well, we need to continue this momentum that we've started in 2021. We need to continue to be relevant to our community, to keep connecting with the racers and providing the service that we're doing for the runners. We don't want to limit our reach. So as I briefly mentioned, we feel the media side of it is incredibly important to promote what we are doing with the World Cup, and of course by association of what's going on in the off-road running world in general. So it has benefits to with our increased efforts to what everybody is doing in the off-road running world. And finally here, we're now in the what I might say is the strange situation where we are starting to have to turn away applications to the World Cup, and of course we don't want to do that. We want to keep our racers involved. So we'll be introducing new membership strategies where racers will still be involved with future editions of the World Cup, and that includes doing things which are consistent with what World Athletics are doing, including offering label races, so a top tier and then a second tier, as well as our traditional associated membership opportunity. Okay, move on. And so just really from my side, just to summarize and to wrap up and to really offer all of you out there now, just that if you're interested in becoming a part of what we do, we have different opportunities for whether you're a race director or a member federation that wants to host a World Cup race. Please feel free to get in touch with us through the WMRA website. We have our secretary and myself have our contact information on there, so at wmra.info. And that's all from my side. So many thanks for your attention. Unless we have the final video that Oliver might be able to show, but I'm not sure that it arrived in time. So if that's not there, then I'll wrap it up.
We didn't receive that video. Sorry about that, Jonathan. I don't think it arrived on time. But what we can do is we're going to be sending out the slides afterwards or making them accessible to people. And what we can do is we can share a link to that if that's helpful for you.
That's very much so. And it's a nice little inspirational look back at one of our World Cup races. So yeah, that'll give people incentive to open their package when they get it.
Yeah, wonderful. We'll certainly share that. Thanks for the great insights. Congratulations on all the achievements. And for those of you that are not aware, Jonathan's an Olympian. He's a multiple mountain running world champion, so clearly well qualified to do what he's doing. Congratulations again, Jonathan. Really great achievements.
Thanks very much for everyone's and good luck with everything everything out there.
Thanks. Jonathan Wyatt, President, World Mountain Running Association, joining us from the Dolomites in Italy. Sounds like a wonderful part of the world. As Alessio said earlier, a cycling paradise and a trail running and mountain running paradise. So wonderful opportunity to be there. Thank you. And thanks for those of you that have stayed with the duration. We're a little over 2 hours. We're getting to the final straight. I think we've got 2 sessions to go, all well worth staying for. And a big reminder of that COP26 video that we're going to be playing as the finale to today's webinar. Next up, delighted to welcome back a woman who wears many hats. Janet Ng, President, International Trail Running Association, Trail Runners Association of Hong Kong, and organizer of the Hong Kong Ultra. And joining her will be Jose Santos, Vice President and Managing Director of ITRA, joining from Lisbon in Portugal to talk about ITRA and its services for national athletics federations. Welcome back, Janet, and welcome, Jose. Over to you.
Let me start off by giving a brief introduction of our association. So who is ITRA? Founded in 2013 as a nonprofit and independent organization, ITRA, which stands for the International Trail Running Association, is the leading reference organization for trail running globally, providing services to individual trail runners and trail event organizers. Our members are runners and trail event organizers worldwide. We are also World Athletics Partner for all matters relating to trail running. Our mission is to promote trail running at an international level and also to help in the development of trail running in different countries and continents, giving voice to trail runners and the sport as a whole across the world. Our founding principle is to preserve and strengthen the values of trail running on which this unique sport is built, the values of authenticity, humility, equality, respect, and fair play. As our sport gains popularity across all regions, these worthy values are what keep the community together and help us, no matter where we are, to speak the same language. So let me tell you about the main tools which we have and which we continue to develop to serve organizers and runners. As you know, trail races take place in the natural environment, and therefore, unlike in stadium and on-road events where races come under standard distances, trail events come in all sorts of flavors. Distances vary, and the amount of going up and down along a course differ from one course to another. So how do we compare courses? We came up with a way to categorize races according to their level of difficulty based on distance and elevation gain. The way this is done is based on what we call the kilometer effort. So for 1 kilometer of distance, obviously it equals to 1 kilometer effort. But then with elevation gain, our formula is such that for 100 meters vertical gain on the course, we will equate it to a 1 kilometer effort. So based on this formula, we categorize events from levels 0 to 6. For example, if the course, say, is 20 kilometers in distance with a cumulative gain of 1,000 meters, then we will evaluate it to be a level 1 course and will give the race 1 ITRA point. At the other end of the spectrum, if you have a 100-miler with, say, 10,000 meters of cumulative gain, then this is a level 6 race and will be accredited with 6 ITRA points. So this way, runners are able to find a race that best suit their preference or ability, and organizers have a way to measure the level of difficulty of their event and advise runners accordingly. Organizers might also want runners to have collected a certain number of ITRA points before joining their events. This is a good way to ensure that those who signed up have the necessary experience to participate in your event. Results scoring and the ITRA Performance Index. Another tool of ITRA is the scoring of results of runners in a race. After completing a race, a runner will be able to find out on their own profile page on the ITRA website what is his or her ITRA score for that race. The theoretical top score is 1,000. This is a very useful tool for runners to see how well they performed in a particular race. Over time, a runner will be able to see all his or her historical results collected in one place on their profile page and to see the evolution of their performance. It is also the basis for the calculation of their performance index. The performance index of a runner is based on up to their 5 best scores they achieved over the previous 36 months. So now a runner can not only see how well he did in a race, but would be able to compare his or her performance with another runner on the other side of the world. So here is the ITRA performance level chart that a runner can use as a reference to see what is the level that he or she is performing at. And this is a bell curve which shows the number of runners performing at different levels across the world based on data we collected. The ITRA ranking. Another useful tool for our runners is the ITRA ranking, which can be filtered based on different criteria. For example, different distances, different age group, different country, and different continent. This ranking system is not only recognized by the global trail running community, it is also recognized by World Athletics as the official ranking. Many federations use the ranking system to select runners for their national teams. Sponsors use it to choose their sponsored athletes, and race organizers use it to see which elite athletes to invite to their events. The ITRA race calendar. Another tool which I'd like to briefly mention is our event calendar, which gives information on trail events worldwide, including event dates, distance, the type of terrain, number of ITRA points it collects. The runners survey. After a race, we ask runners to complete and send back a survey which gives scores on the overall organization and quality of an event. Based on the results, an event is given 1 to 5 stars, and this information is available to everyone to view. I should add that all the tools that I just mentioned are not static. We would continue to improve them so as to better serve our members and the trail running community. Here are some key statistics that I would like to share with you. To date, 2 million runners have been ranked by ITRA. We have 150,000 runner accounts and 4,000 organizer accounts. Runners and organizers are from all 4 corners of the globe, with 165 countries represented. As an independent and neutral global organization, ITRA is the go-to platform for trail running. We have 110,000 followers on social media and 12 million annual page views on our website. I understand that some of you here today are representatives of national federations. Apart from the great tools that I just mentioned, which I think would be of help to you in learning about your athletes and also what types of trail events are held, where and when, there are other ways for us to support you. ITRA is represented around the world by our elected national representatives. We have 39 runner representatives and 26 organizer representatives. Our representatives are based in Asia, Europe, North and South Americas, and Oceania, Australia and New Zealand. National representatives are elected by either runners or organizer members of particular countries or territories for a term of 4 years. They are all passionate advocates for our sport and a great resource on all things trail running. They represent ITRA at a local level and plays a pivotal role in exchanges and dialogues between different stakeholders locally. Not only do they bring the voice of runners and race organizers of their countries to ITRA, they also relay information about ITRA to their own country organizers and runners. So as World Athletics partner on trail running matters, we hope that a strong partnership will be established between our national representatives and national federations. I firmly believe that this is of crucial importance for the development of the sport. We and our national representatives are always ready to help you with any queries or needs you have regarding the development of trail running in your country or territory. Another resource which I think is helpful for national federations and organizers is our medical and safety guidelines. These are guidelines for the implementation of a preventative security and safety plan to reduce accidents, and also for the development of a rescue plan. The measures aim to ensure not only the safety of runners, but also those involved in the race, the staff, the volunteers, spectators, service providers, and the general public. This has been translated into 10 different languages and is free for download by all. Also, when the world was hit by the COVID-19 pandemic last year, ITRA's Medical and Safety Commission issued a set of guidelines to help organizers in putting on a safe event during the pandemic. The safety protocols adopt advice from the World Health Organization. Race organizers from around the world are able to use this as a reference to ensure that events can still continue during the pandemic while keeping runners, volunteers, and their entire community safe. This again is free for download by anyone who needs some advice on how to put on a safe event during this pandemic. I now pass the introduction to Jose, who will explain to you what is the trail running modules.
Thanks, Janet. Janet has given a thorough explanation about our main tools and how we can help member federations with our national representatives. Before going to it in detail, I would like to say that the trail running modules are our next joint initiative with World Athletics, and the plan is to present it through the World Athletics Development Program to both area associations and member federations. This being said, if you are a race organizer, stay tuned, because we are also planning to open it to you. So ITRA and World Athletics for sure will be soon providing more information about this joint initiative. I will shortly summarize its content. So we will be starting by covering the most important topics related with the discipline, and we will start by talking about the history of the sport and its growth. Then next slide, please, Janet. And then we will be addressing the governance model of the sport and its rules, how ITRA, how we are organized, the relationship that we have with other international entities, the rules of competition, the organization of the joint mountain and trail world championships that we've been talking about today. And then if we move to next slide, we'll see that we'll also be speaking in further detail about the definition of trail running, specifically and namely about some of its key characteristics, like the concept, very important concept of self-sufficiency, as well as about some of our measurement tools, the ones that Janet already explained a bit. I mean, the ITRA Performance Index and the level of difficulty evaluation method. And then we'll dive deep into all the key aspects of race organization, like race course design, how to do it, organization of the staff, race regulations, medical safety and rescue plan, which are all very, very important aspects when organizing a race. And to finalize, we will then finish by addressing, Janet, could you please, by addressing the key topics concerning race management, going from race monitoring to course marketing, logistics, race coverage, and protocol. So the idea is to give a thorough kind of explanation to all these targets about how to address the organization of a trail race, and also about all the important aspects related with the sport itself. So we really hope that these modules can help member federations to better understand our sport, and also race organizers to implement safer and better organized events. That's our goal. Thanks. Thank you all.
Thank you, Janet. And Jose, I owe you an apology. I was using the Spanish pronunciation of your name, Jose, but I believe it should have been Jose, so my apologies for that. We had a couple of questions in the chat there, which we posted to both of you. Would you like to respond to those? Can you see them in your chat, or would you like me to read them for you?
I'll give it a look.
Maybe I can just read them for you. Would you mind bringing them up
Yeah.
for me, please, Oliver? Okay, so what is the difference between ITRA's performance index and the UTMB World Performance Index? Is it true that the ITRA's performance index will be transformed to the UTMB.world platform?
Janet, do you want
Jose, do you want to? That's your
want me to?
But go ahead.
Okay. Well, it's not the same. Well, we are not aware of the way UTMB is calculating their own performance index. I believe their own performance index is applied to the new UTMB Ironman circuit. Our performance index is applied to all races. We use it to calculate the scores and the performance index of all athletes participating in all races around the world. And no, for sure, our performance index is not going to be transferred to UTMB's platform.
I should also add that our performance index and our ranking is the one recognized by World Athletics. And the ITRA performance index, there will always be an ITRA performance index.
Thank you, Janet. Thank you, Jose. Then there's one more. When are you going to consider the altitude at which the races take place? A race over 4,000 meters of 100K has the same ITRA points as a race at sea level. That is not a fair measurement for the races or for those who participate in them.
Well, as Janet has explained, we when giving scores and performance index is a kind of an average of the 5 best results of the last 36 months. But when calculating scores for runners, we try to flattening the race using the formula that Janet mentioned. So in order to try and compare comparable things. But average altitude or altitude is a good point. And I can tell you that our new formula, as Janet was also saying, we keep improving it. And our new formula for calculating scores and performance index is already taking into account the average altitude of the race. But as Janet once again was mentioning, this is not static. Our main goal is to keep improving it and to keep including all the relevant inputs from the community to make it better and a better tool. So that's the idea.
Wonderful. You're getting a clap in the comments from Claudio. Thank you for those answers. There was one other question not relating to this session, but someone asked about the recording. We are live on the MPW Facebook page right now, and that obviously recording will be up there. We're also recording the session, and it will be posted on the MPW YouTube channel early next week. And early next week, we will also send out a link where you can download the presentations and the video link as well. So all of those will be available. But with that, I'd like to say a big thank you. Janet Ng, President, International Trail Running Association and Trail Runners Association of Hong Kong, and getting the pronunciation right this time, Jose Santos, Vice President and Managing Director of ITRA, joining us from Lisbon and Hong Kong, respectively. Thank you so much, both of you.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us.
And we're on to the final leg of, shall we call it, a long trail relay, a scenic and very enjoyable one. I've learned so much tonight. We've got one more chapter left, and delighted to welcome. It's been a long session for them, patiently waiting in the wings, and a wonderful and really important topic that we end on this week of COP26, Sustainability Matters, the Trail Net to Zero project. Please welcome David Callahan, Partner Ultra Sign Up, joining us from Nashville, Tennessee, and Terry Chiplin, Event Director of the U.S. Trail Running Conference, and he heralds from the lands belonging to the Arapaho and Ute peoples in what is now known as Estes Park in Colorado. Thanks for your patience, David and Terry. Wonderful to have you joining us, and congrats on your apparently hugely successful U.S. Trail Running Conference, which was on last week.
Thank you so much, Chris. Yes, good to be here. Okay, I will get cracking. So yeah, I just put on the US Trail Running Conference that finished last weekend, and thank you, Chris, for that mention. So back in 2018 and 2019, I was working with the Council for Responsible Sport, who are a certification nonprofit here in the US. And I was going through a certification process for the US Trail Running Conference. And it was a life-changing, and I have to say, business-changing experience for me. And we have a video lined up. Oliver, if you could line up the video for us now from the friends at the Council for Responsible Sport. And while Oliver is setting that up, I just want to explain what the video is going to be sharing. We're going to be having here, this is from a recent analysis of the greenhouse gas emissions of mass participation events by our friends from the Council for Responsible Sport. And this is actually from a study of 29 mass participation events between 2014 and 2019 in North America as part of events seeking and reporting to the Council for Responsible Sport. As you can see, oh, this is running through a bit quickly. Okay, Oliver, I don't know if it's possible to backtrack the video. I don't know if you have that technology. There we go. Okay, so as you can see, the participant travel is elephant in the room, and it's necessary to get to events, but it's also the largest source by far of climate changing emissions for events. So everything else in terms of event production amounts to less than 2%. And data on the average per capita emissions and the range of emissions for events with fewer, actually, can you move on to the next part of the video, Oliver, if that's possible? So yeah, there we go. So the range of emissions for events with fewer than 20,000 participants is between 87 and 15,000 metric tons. Depending on the size of the local audience, then the median is 639 metric tons. And next section, Oliver, if you can fast forward. Wonderful, thank you. So the cost of offsetting, which is really the only solution if we're not going to stop traveling to events, we have to compensate for that environmental impact in order to keep within the limits of the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. And the cost per capita, as we can see here in the US, is $3.80 to offset to carbon neutral to organizers at a cost, and that's a cost of $20 per metric ton. And there is a wide variety of prices and quality for offsets currently. And the option here is for organizers to stomach the cost to offset the impacts of greenhouse gases. And with a cost of up to $300,000, as we can see, you're probably not going to have capacity for an additional resource of that amount. Then looking at this, the opportunity is to pass responsibility onto your runners to choose for themselves if they want to be accountable for those emissions and have the opportunity to do so is what we are advocating for in our Trail to Net Zero consortium. So the great news is, Oliver, if we could pull off the video now, thank you so much. So the great news is that recent runner statistics show that runners are very interested in initiatives that empower actions to address climate change. So we saw statistics on the 1st of November this week from World Athletics that 77% of elite athletes are either very concerned or extremely concerned about climate change. 84% have already made changes to lifestyle to reduce damage caused to the environment. And then also in a recent survey that was initiated by our friends at Ultra Sign Up, and David's one of the partners there, 75% of respondents said mitigating their carbon footprint is either very important or important. And 66% of those respondents also understood what a carbon offset was. And right now in the US, the estimate for the trail running population is about 9 million. So that's a big community. And we are all obviously passionate about running in nature. That's why trail running is grown to the sport that it is now. And it's been great to see the images and hear the information from our colleagues before us. And so I think it makes a lot of sense for us to be invested in ensuring that we all help to maintain this beautiful planet we call home. So earlier this year, several interested parties in the US trail running scene here formed a consortium to create specific programs to empower individual runners to take collective action to move the sport towards zero carbon. And we wanted to explore, was there a way we could address the unseen impacts of trail races towards the existential crisis that we are now facing, and how our sport can help to heal our planet? So my friend and colleague David Callahan will now share more about the consortium and the initiatives we have planned.
Thank you, Terry. I appreciate it. As Terry referenced, you know, the challenge that we face in our sport is primarily related to travel, which is nice that we have a single target that we're able to direct our attention to. Fortunately for us, we're a sport where really all you need are a pair of tennis shoes and some available trails. And so we're not facing some of the challenges that other sports are facing, such as automobile racing, for example, which has an enormous amount of infrastructure that goes along with the sport. So we as a sport have a unique opportunity in really grabbing hold of this target of travel and putting our efforts and attention towards coming up with creative and accessible solutions for the trail running community to take advantage of, to push the sport as a whole to that carbon neutral standpoint. So recognizing that travel was the main driver of carbon footprint inside our sport, we decided that we needed to try and figure out a way to get engaged in that travel flow with our racers. And so Ultra Signup is in a unique position, I believe, because we're the largest trail running registration marketplace in the world. And so because of that, we have access to trail runners in the early stages of their journey of deciding when to pick races, which races to pick, and then also registering for those races, and then having a chance within the registration flow to present them with opportunities to actively engage in reducing their carbon footprint. So recognizing that Ultra Signup was in that position, we began an initiative to pull together a collaborative group of well-respected organizations in order to help us develop and execute on a workable roadmap towards bringing the sport of trail racing to carbon neutral. So as Terry referenced earlier this year, we started pulling the group together, and the consortium has rounded out very nicely in the United States. We have Ultra Signup, obviously, US Trail Running Conference as well, the American Trail Running Association, Council for Responsible Sports, Athletes for a Fit Planet, and Runners for Public Lands. That group has been engaging in regular conversations over the past year to help develop some initial roadmap that we believe that we can begin acting on in the near term, and a much longer roadmap of projects that are going to string into the next several years as we continue to try and evolve the offerings, the solutions that are available to runners and race directors as we push the sport towards carbon neutral. So the goals of the consortium that have come together is first to provide education to the community to develop a better understanding of carbon offset options and the impact of those options. As Terry mentioned, broadly, the surveys that have been performed both by ourselves and the Council for Responsible Sports reveals that most participants in this sport do have an interest in engaging in climate change, and most of them have some general familiarity with the term carbon offsets, with what carbon offsets are geared to accomplish, but there's still a lot of uncertainty as to the various types of carbon offsets that are currently in the market. There's a lot of confusion right now as to which carbon offsets are I hate to say preferred, but to some extent preferred, which carbon offsets have challenges. The United States is in a, as y'all may have noticed, we have some challenges with regard to many of the carbon offset projects that might be available in Europe, such as reforestation, planting, forest maintenance. The United States is increasingly experiencing more and more forest fires, increasingly experience more and more flooding, which are direct results of climate change. But because of these environmental challenges, some of the techniques that are used in European countries to help achieve carbon neutrality through the purchase of carbon offsets are a bit more challenging to deploy throughout the US. And so the first step with regard to the first goal of the consortium is to start developing education tools that we can deploy broadly throughout the community, so that we can help educate the runners and the race directors as to the various available tools that exist, and to make recommendations as a consortium as to which we believe are the most effective tools for the community to pursue in achieving their long-term goals. The second goal is to initially facilitate the removal of friction for racers to participate in neutralizing their carbon footprint. As Terry mentioned, there's a heavy majority of people that want to participate in neutralizing their carbon footprint, but research has shown that only about 12% have actually purchased carbon offset credits. We believe, a lot of reasons why there's this disconnect between a desire to participate and offset your carbon footprint and the action step of actually purchasing the carbon credits. And so for us, again, being in the position of having access to the race registration flow, we see initially the opportunity to present racers with a selection throughout the registration process, through which they can initially donate a certain amount of money towards carbon offsets of a flat amount, somewhere between $1 and $3. And then eventually, as the system becomes more sophisticated, we can assist them in actually calculating their carbon footprint related to their specific race. The calculation of that is not all that difficult. The balancing of racer choice is what becomes a bit more complicated, because we want people to participate in races. We want them to travel to iconic races. We want them to enjoy the experience of racing all over the world. And we don't want to create a system of guilt or any type of shame that might come about when you see a carbon calculator saying that your carbon footprint for traveling from California to France is X amount of dollars. We do want to create encouragement and solutions, and not discouragement and guilt related to this travel. And so that becomes a bit of a process that we're going to have to continue working on as we end up developing tools that help racers offset their exact footprint without the risk of any type of guilt related to that travel. And then the third large goal that the consortium is working on is connecting brands with the consortium and the community so that they can more directly engage with achieving carbon neutrality for the sport. So in order for us to get from where we are to where we want to be, we understand that not every racer is going to participate in offsetting their carbon footprint for a variety of reasons, either because they can't afford it, they don't view it as important, or they're just they're just not interested at that moment in time. And so the way that we're going to get the sport to carbon neutral is we're going to facilitate the process for those interested racers to donate. And then we're also going to introduce opportunities for brands to get engaged in that process so that they can help offset the footprint for those various members who may have elected not to participate. And so the consortium, again, sort of shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, as we continue to work on this process, we'll be approaching brands, endemic brands through the sport, who have already demonstrated a willingness and an interest in also participating in climate change, and invite them to come along and participate in this unique process of engaging individual racers across a fragmented sport in the United States to help offset their footprint. And we hope, just as the consortium has come together of disparate different organizations, we hope that the brands will put aside their competitive differences that may exist in the business of trail running and sort of come arm in arm, shoulder to shoulder, and participate in this process, because we certainly view them as major contributors to the future of achieving carbon neutrality in the sport. So those are the projects we're working on right now. We still have a long way to go, but we have a pretty clear roadmap on how we're going to get there. And we're excited to see this get deployed across the United States. Our hope is that obviously we can set an example for other platforms to use in the future. And this can get deployed more broadly across the world, because we think it's a great way to, on a fragmented basis, to aggregate the interested parties together towards pursuing carbon neutrality for the sport. So I think that's all we were going to cover in the presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks so much, David and Terry. What a wonderful initiative, and I'm a huge fan of the work that Shelley Villalobos does at the Council for Responsible Sport. So, yeah, with her by your side, I'm sure there's going to be some wonderful opportunities. And clearly, collaboration is key to this. And we've already seen just in the chat while you've been talking some suggestions of connecting with Cape Town Marathon, which was the first marathon apparently to be carbon neutral 3 years ago. So some great opportunities to collaborate there. Thank you so much. I don't see any questions. I'm just looking in the chat here at the moment on the screen in front of me. Don't see any more at the moment, but if there are any, we can obviously feed those through to you. So final lap, thank you so much. Thanks for staying the distance. And we're now going to close out the show. Just with a very big thank you from me, from Alessio and the team at World Athletics, for all of our speakers. Massive program. This, I think, is the 7th or 8th one of these that we've done, and certainly the biggest undertaking in terms of the size of the panel and the duration. Wonderful to have seen so many people log on and join us, and a wonderful way to end off with the video that we're going to play in the moment. But a big thank you from me, Chris Robb, CEO and founder of Mass Participation World. We've got lots of initiatives that we do over the course of the weeks and months. So if we can help and support you in any way, please follow us, Mass Participation World Facebook page, YouTube channels, connect with me on LinkedIn if there's any way I can help you, chris@massparticipationworld.com. And the 6th edition of our conference coming up from the 6th to 10th of October. Of December. It's been a long night. I'm even getting my months mixed up. Go well. Thank you so much. And we'll end you with the COP26 video and the presentation from Sebastian Coe and a host of global athletes. Good night. Good morning. Have a great day. Sleep well.
We as athletes, whether we like it or not, are role models, and we can choose to stand up for what we believe in. We can choose to stand with the scientists, the Indigenous peoples, and the children of our planet. We can add our voices to those saying that we will not stand by and accept the irreversible damage that is happening to our planet.
When we are running, we need a cool fresh air, we need a clean air, we need a good environment running. The only way is to respect the environment.
Our planet is literally on fire. However enormous and incomprehensible the climate crisis is, with its violent weather, famines, forest fires and forced human relocation, we should find comfort in the fact that it's entirely our own creation. The guilt we feel that we're its cause should also empower us that we are still the authors of our own destiny.
और एक ऐसा ही कॉमन गोल हमारे सामने है, अपनी दुनिया को क्लाइमेट चेंज से बचाना। इसके लिए हमको साथ में मिलकर टीम की तरह काम करना होगा।
After discovering and understanding how limited but valuable our freshwater resources are, I started to factor in and pay closer attention to my daily water use, but also to consider how much water was being used in the food production lines of the foods that I truly love.
Lo sport mi ha insegnato a trovare soluzioni ai problemi e a mettere in atto strategie per risolverli. Sono convinta che sia questo l'atteggiamento individuale e collettivo necessario a cambiare la situazione.
We need to take bold and immediate steps towards addressing climate change and robust climate resiliency. Western cities continue to be built with their planning and infrastructure decisions centered around the car. As an Olympic race walker, I've walked my city more than anybody else. I'm acutely aware of how our past decisions have literally fractured our cities, directly contributing to the ongoing climate crisis.
Climate change is affecting us all, and it's affecting us in so many different ways, and it's affecting our sport and our training. Every summer we spend training for the outdoor season in Greece, and every summer, without an exception, we have to not train outdoors for several days or often weeks because of how bad the atmospheric pollution and the smoke is from wildfires in Athens. A few months ago, we moved to Colorado, and the first week we spent training in Colorado, we were advised to not be outside due to the wildfires in California and Oregon.
Weather has not been so predictable. Sometimes when it's extremely dry, they get dusty and it affects their breathing system.
I spend a huge proportion of my life outdoors, enjoying everything that the environment and this planet enables us to do. But it isn't the same for everyone. Climate change is getting worse, and I find it shocking that 7 million people lose their lives annually due to breathing in polluted air.
Εμείς οι αθλητές είμαστε σαν στρατιώτες. Κατά τη διάρκεια ενός αγώνα, ο κάθε αθλητής παλεύει για τον εαυτό του. Είναι σαν μια μάχη. Τη μάχη όμως αυτή, ενάντια της κλιματικής αλλαγής, πρέπει να την κερδίσουμε μαζί και με την απήχησή μας να επηρεάσουμε όσους περισσότερους μπορούμε να μας βοηθήσουν στη μάχη αυτή.
The science is clear. We must act decisively to combat climate change, and we must act now. I'm proud of the way our athletes are responding to this great global challenge, the way they're becoming engaged in the issues, and the way they are using their voice to encourage their fellow athletes, fans, and their elected leaders. Their message is that we must all work together for a healthy environment for the future of our sport and the future of our planet. We should pay attention.
So let's stand together and find ways that we can protect and save the planet that we love.
It's not too late to escape the mindset that brought us here.
Aiutiamo l'ambiente, aiutiamo il nostro futuro.
But we can all do more.
Basta l'indifferenza. We must do this.
It's all about climate change.
We can choose to fight.
È questo il momento di agire.
It's time to take action.
We can still fix this.
It's time to take action now.
Let's work towards a better tomorrow.